Voice of Seven Thunders, a production of the Gospel Trumpet Publishing Company. I am Brother Ernest Binion Jr. with Brother Randall and Stephen Hargrave. We are apostles of the Lord of the Church of God at the end of time. We are doing a review of the book Hustlin Backwards. This is a book that Brother Steve, you wrote, and we feel like is a critical curriculum for understanding what's happening in our present day and how to start the discussion for dealing with oppression in our time. Subtitle, Regressive Progression. This is the story of freedom captured. Part 12, Victim or Victim Mentality. We're trying to work through some of these chapters to help expand on some of these concepts and continue to push the conversation forward for those who have read this book. If you've not gotten a copy of this book, you want to, you can get it by going to Real Black Excellence on our website, realblackexcellence.com. realblackexcellence.com, where you'll also find links to get the audio version on Google Play Store and Apple App Store, actually read by Brother Stephen Hargrave, and very, very good reading. So, Victim or Victim Mentality is part 12. So, this is an interesting chapter title because it seems like maybe more relevant than ever. There's a confusion in my mind. There's a confusion being made of language that, for example, the term woke, which actually comes from a biblical expression, awakening, right?
Yes.
Awakening to righteousness. So this idea of wokeness, which is good, face value, but has been hijacked and misappropriated in a way that has become oppressive. Actually, it's caused people to not be awake at all, right? For example, we have various other social movements that have happened in the world. Black Lives Matter. Do Black Lives Matter? We're sitting here. Of course they matter. And yet, is the system, is the organization called Black Lives Matter actually bringing about the truth about that subject? You know, that could be debated in some ways. And other social groups. Me too. Absolutely no woman should be abused at any point in time. And yet the movement has become abusive, so on and so forth.
Yes.
So we have something similar here, and that's this cry that when we talk about racism, there's automatically a opposition to that you are assumed to either be a victim, or by talking about it, you're talking about it because you have a victim's mind.
Exactly. And that mind, of course, would be negative. It'd be
contributing to the furtherance of the topic.
It'd be the very thing in a lot of people's minds that brings you down. So it'd be one of the reasons people would say, well, because you feel like you're a victim, then you can't have this upward mobility or this progression that you need to have. And it's not so much the topic of racism or oppression at all. It's your mentality. Change your mind and your body, and the rest of your life will follow. And so that's the general thought. I want to say something, too, if you allow me to back up. You talk about being woke. I think that's interesting, how it's taken from biblical terminology to be awakened. But it's the same thing as what they used to say in the past. There's a revival in the land.
All right.
The reason why they don't say revival is because that has a religious connotation.
That's right.
But the point I'm making is that all of this is religion, based on religion. It's based on belief. At this point, the language is simply that they're calling it woke or awakened, which is the same as there's a revival going on. There's an enlightening going on. There's knowledge being disseminated. People are coming alive to this understanding, and it's not new at all. So I just wanted to bring that out. Victim or victim mentality. Brother, one of the main parts of this chapter, I think the chapter title speaks for itself. Are you a victim, or do you have the victim mentality? Or do you call yourself a victim? Etc., etc. Should you be a victim? What's the difference between the two? I start the chapter by saying it's understandable how someone would not want to be labeled a victim. Because it's very humbling. And it means you aren't in control. It means something was done to you that you don't like.
You were oppressed.
You were abused in some way. It's not really your fault. So it's admitting to just being very vulnerable and in a bad position, and something was done that was contrary to your will to you. So I would understand, first of all, I understand why someone would not want to be a victim or would not want to admit being a victim. And I think that's an important point. But the nature of victimization is that we do not entirely get to choose if we are one. Not entirely. There are some things that we can do to protect ourselves to make certain that we're not victims of a break-in. We have security systems. We lock our door, whatever it may be. Get a dog. People have guns in their homes. In America, there's a good chance you walk in someone's home that they have a weapon of some sort. Not entirely true, but a good chance. And so people do things to protect themselves from being victimized, and they do their due diligence to ensure that they're not victimized in a way that they can control. But the nature of victimization is that what makes you a victim is you absolutely can't control every aspect of your life. Something is being done to you. And I make the assertion that there's been no human from the history of the world that has ever, not one single human being that has ever been able to totally deny or totally prevent being victimized in some way, because of the limitations of our humanity. We just don't know what's going to happen if somebody jumps and tackles you or what have you. You just don't know what's going to happen. So you can't absolutely prevent being victimized. And the nature of that is what makes one a victim. And so the reason why I bring this point out in the chapter in the beginning is because I think it's important to know that just because someone's a victim doesn't mean they have a problem. In the environment that we live in, part of the oppressive environment is to oppress the one that's been victimized. Is that making sense? So you didn't do anything. The young lady gets abused or molested in some way.
And we blame.
And then we start blaming the young lady.
Right.
Because she says, I was a victim of rape. And so someone says, well, you shouldn't have dressed like that. Absolutely the wrong thing to say. Okay? Because no matter how she was dressed, or even if she was entirely unclothed, she still does not deserve that treatment. That's right. And she does not deserve being victimized or being victimized for being abused.
Victim. That's right.
And so what happens is the people say, well, you're not a victim. And then they start victimizing the people that they're saying you're not a victim. And that's just one scenario. And so I think in the environment that we live in, to force upon people the idea that they should stop saying they're a victim just entirely is victimizing them.
That's right.
Okay? Because they can't entirely stop being victimized. And you have something?
No.
Okay. So without being able to stop being victimized, I think we just continue to perpetuate oppression, which again highlights what we call the system. There is a system where victimization exists because the system has victimized all of us, everyone sitting here, and the people that say they're not victimized are victimized by the very system because there's no possibility to avoid what structure we've been born into, what shaped our minds, the environment in which we live. There's no way to avoid and just say, these things have not affected me in any negative way, whereas I can never be a victim.
So then what happens is based on what you're saying, is people then by denying that they've been a victim, they actually become the thing that they're denying.
They absolutely are. And
because you don't acknowledge this happened.
The denial is one of the ways to deal with your victimization. I'll just put it off like, no, it doesn't exist. I am not a victim. Okay. Now let me say something in defense of those that say that I'm not a victim, because I don't want to victimize the people that say I am not a victim.
Right.
It is very true, to their credit. It's very true that very often when people say they are victims, it is not the case. Number one. Sometimes if it is the case, it's also true that the individuals often live in their victimization and refuse or allow that victimization to prevent them from going forward in their life and from getting victories that they need to get and obtain things they need to obtain. And in that regard, I can understand the premise where someone says, look, you're not a victim, stop being a victim. I do, however, believe that the language that they're using is the incorrect language, and I think the language is important here. So I'll give one more example that I use in the book, the main example in the chapter. If we are all in a small room, none of us use marijuana for any purpose. But if we were all in a small room, or anyone, a small enclosed room, and there were 10 people in there, and they were smoking marijuana, and we were compelled, we were forced to be in there for 5 full minutes, while 10 people were smoking marijuana. After 5 minutes, they unlock the door, and we can get out, we can run away, we can do whatever you want to do. It would be foolish for someone that is entrapped or enclosed in a room, like that, a small room, 10 people are smoking marijuana. It'd be very foolish for them to walk out and say, I'm not high.
I'm not affected.
I'm not one bit affected by the environment in which I was. That room means nothing to me. You need to get over it. Nobody's ever done anything to you. You've never even smoked. And it might be true. It might be true. I didn't smoke. I didn't want to smoke. I'm totally I'm doing all I can. I'm finding handkerchiefs that don't exist. I'm cutting out the insides of my pockets. I'm trying. Like I don't want to be in the room. But I was in the room, or compelled to be in the room. And therefore, my hair, the smell of my hair, my skin, my eyes, my breath, my clothing, my throat. I'm just entirely affected by the environment which I have been in. And in the same manner, the reason I give that example is because we're born into an environment. We're here in an environment. Systems are operating. The world has been operating. We didn't make the way things are. And so to deny the effects of the structure that's in place on us is, in my opinion, very unwise. And I think that what they're saying is, I think that what the people are saying when they say, I'm not a victim, I think it would be better said, and that's what I state in the book, it'd be better said to say, let's not keep a victim mentality.
Right. So it walks the line of you can acknowledge that you've been victimized.
Yes, you must acknowledge it, lest you can't even get over it.
And you can move beyond the condition of having a victim's mentality.
Yes. So everyone has that in our lives, right? So when we were younger, something happened to us, whatever it might have
Where
been.
you want to hang on to the injustice.
Yes. Well, the injustice, absolutely the injustice or whatever it is, but something happened to us. But I'm talking about just life. Maybe when we were younger, we broke our wrist.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm with you now.
I broke, but what you're saying is absolutely correct. All applies. So I'm younger. I broke my wrist. I really did, and I was really I was traumatized for real.
Yeah.
Like after that, I was scared. Like I didn't get on my skateboard or my bike for a whole year or whatever it may be. At some point, you're just in life, how life works. You're going to have to say, yes, but then after that, I learned to drive and everything was fine. That did traumatize me. I moved on from that. But I cannot pretend as if these things did not happen to me. Now, it's possible if I'm very intelligent, I could reason away some things. I could just say, well, someone came up and hit me in the alley. They just hit me. They attacked me in the alley and I was mugged. But I'm not a victim. Because I don't know, the people that mugged me, they mugged me for the wrong reason, or they thought something was this or that in my mentality at the time, and I came to find out that they really didn't want to do it in the first place. And I can make all kinds of reasons. I've actually heard people do that. I can make all kinds of reasons to justify why I'm saying I'm not a victim and I've never been one. But the best thing to do, the most reasonable thing to do is say, yes, they did mug me. I didn't want them to hit me. But I'm going to live my life. I walk out the door every day. I'm not going to let that stop me from moving along.
So
I'm not going to have the mentality that's a victim.
Using that example, it reminded me of, I'm very intrigued by victim impact statements in courts. So I'm thinking right now of this gymnastic, the U.S. gymnastics team's doctor that was convicted of abusing so many athletes. Well, many of them had the opportunity to read to him, to the perpetrator, a victim impact statement. So these people absolutely abused, absolutely victims of the power that he had over them and the perception that that actually he was providing them medical treatment, and under that guise was able to perpetrate crimes against these children and young people who have decided, here's the interesting thing, they've decided in order to move forward in our lives, I'm going to write about my experience to this individual, up to and including a release. I forgive you. I'm not going to allow bitterness to imprison me while you go to jail. So I'm going to freely forgive you and leave you to what you deserve. And I'm going to move forward. This is an example and a powerful one.
It is.
I think an excellent one.
It is.
For learning, even though you've been hurt, there's actually this temptation to allow that hurt to be something that you hold on to the trauma intentionally so that you have this victim mentality, which, of course, we would say is wrong. It's oppressive. You're actually a part of your own oppression if you keep that trauma to yourself and don't deal with it properly. So I'd like to be a little more specific here.
Yes.
This book is about oppression specifically through the form of racism. Okay. I would like to speak to the African American community and ask the question to us, have we been guilty of having a victim mentality? Has our community, so first question, Brother Randy, has our community been victimized?
Yes.
Absolutely. In light of the book, racism has been one of the ways. Now, this is what's interesting about this topic is that racism is just one component, maybe a leading component, but it leads to other things. It leads to the like the writing of the 13th Amendment, for example, is written in such a way that allows a further form of racial oppression through an amendment that seek to end racial oppression. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. And so if we've been victimized, for example, do we have people in the black community that have held on to that? And if so, in what way?
Well, I mean, for sure. I mean, you know, that is true. I don't know that it just comes to me just clearly how to talk about it.
So does it not come to you because you literally have nothing to think about? Or, my suspicion is, that it's actually kind of a difficult subject to talk about to our own people?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why is that? Why is talking about whether or not we have a victim mentality among our own community, is that something that makes us say, well, we know it's there, we need to talk about it? I'm not accusing you here, just dialogue. Why is that so sensitive a topic that it's hard to just jump in and, oh yeah, we got this problem, this problem, this problem. We're not doing this, or we got to fix this.
Well, I think it's the same thing. It's sensitive in my view for the same reason why talking about white supremacy is sensitive to someone that would identify as white.
Right.
Okay. If we say to our community, we have had a victim mentality, that triggers something, and that trigger is by the system, that triggers something in many that would tend to cause them to believe that we somehow are discounting the abuses that we have gone through. We somehow are not recognizing, what do you mean we have a victim mentality? These white folks did, and police brutality, and brother, all of it's like, now, I hear you, but I am saying we've had a victim mentality. Let me show you in these kinds of ways. Because to be very honest, those that say, now I believe that white supremacy exists.
Yes, sir.
I believe racism exists
Yes,
today,
sir.
rampant.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I also believe that if your mind as a black person, now I've not done this, but in my view, I've not done it because I've given my soul to other things. Okay. But if your sole purpose in life was that you were going to make, I've made six figures, okay, that you're going to make six figures, that's your sole, that's what you count as success, that's reasonable to you, that's going to help you to be able to take care of your family. If that is your sole purpose in life and you give yourself to that in America, I don't care what color you are, you can make six figures. And I think the people that say, see, you just go do your thing. I'm not saying everybody has the capacity to be a multimillionaire, but you certainly don't have to be struggling. You can almost sell water and make six figures. You can almost sell water and socks and underwear, whatever. I'm not trying to be foolish. I'm saying I know of people that sold things like socks to make $50,000. I mean, I don't want to. Okay, I'm selling socks and I make $50,000 a year.
Okay, so this is a part of the conversation that people who are not African Americans look on, and this is a part of the dialogue. They're saying, well, wait a minute. You live in America.
Exactly.
What do you mean you can't make it?
And
what do you mean you're not making it because you have a victim mentality? And the fact is, some of the times, these non-African Americans looking in saying, what's wrong with your community, aren't wrong.
No, they're not wrong. Often,
I'm not saying all the time.
No.
Some of the time, they don't have the greater context. Black Thought said in a song, he said, when you've been down for so much time, getting up don't even really cross your mind. And that's true. You can be in a kind of an oppressive state of mind.
Right.
That actually you've got six figures.
Yes.
And live in a victim's mentality.
Absolutely.
Not able to function, not able to progress, not able to have real black excellence that we espouse. And so, to me, that's why this is kind of important to deal with victim versus victim mentality, because it's been all so muddled that it's difficult for people to deal with the topic, and so sensitive that, again, if we, forget non-African American, I just dropped my thing, a non-African American, just one of our own, if we say what we say carelessly, this is America, you can make it, what's wrong with you, pull yourself up.
This is what
There's actually something I believe, and I don't know, I don't think I'm going out on a limb. I think there's something actually in the African American psyche that tells them something's not reconciled. It's not that things are not, for example, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just get moving and just don't have a victim mentality, and it's possible, to become paralyzed in that, really, because you sense, that's right, but there's
I'm right
something
too.
laying here.
Yeah.
There's two things right.
That's
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
That's
And
right.
so-
but I'm right too.
Right. So there's like when you have a situation where, and I feel like I often get in circumstances where, both things are right. Both things are correct. And if both things then are correct, and there's a word I've been using a lot, then that means something needs to be reconciled. And it also means there must be a system that can reconcile it.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so and if when you have these two things running in you, you know what I mean? Like we often, be true to you, and we be wanting to be true to us. And to be true, does that, to be true, does that mean, no, I can't be a victim, and have a victim mentality, so I got to push forward. But also to be true, I got to acknowledge that, Petey got a point. Like, he's right. I can't leave him. I can't leave him and say, no, because we've been down here together. We've been, you know what I mean? And now I get up and or whatever, do something, and then he's stuck. All right. Should he be stuck? I wish he wasn't stuck. You know what I mean? But for me to say, he ain't got no reason to be stuck, I can't say it.
Now see, that's
Like,
that's what happens. Isn't it true that the system
And it actually creates a point of contention in the African American community that, if not resolved, and if not acknowledged, and this is why a lot of times you could get a lot of dissension. So you get people, and I think I talked about the red pill. They take the red pill and they go over there with the red pill, and all, come on, y'all, we got to get up, pull up your bootstraps. And we got this brother down here saying, I ain't got no boots, y'all.
Right.
What do boots look like?
Yeah, somebody say, I don't have no boots. Yeah, that's right. Somebody said, what they look like, and what is a boot? I never heard of it.
Yeah.
And what's a bootstrap?
Yeah, and then you get young men, they never had a father, and people get up, they get, they're blessed with somebody who is a father figure for them, okay, or somebody who takes them up, or you know what I mean. But if if the father figure you saw was the dope man on the street,
Who really did father you.
But they fathered you into the streets. You know what I'm saying? where am I? You know, how can I ever find my way clear? And I think that you know, that's what the community has needed. That's what I'm putting in a shameless plug for the book.
All right.
That's what the book has done. This book has done this, that we're able to, I can move forward and I can acknowledge my truth and move forward. Forgetting those things that are behind, pressing forward.
Yeah.
I press toward the mark of the high calling of God, which is in Christ Jesus. We can do both. And when you say both, you got to do both.
That's right.
Both things have to happen
At the same time.
At the
for
same time,
reconciliation.
for you to move forward, you have to be able to. Okay,
right.
you start your end.
All
You
right.
start your now. Let's go. Come on, y'all. Keep moving. Keep moving. Did that happen? Yes, it happened.
So the means by which that happens then is what becomes the issue of the day. Is if we can get people to understand, and that's what the book attempts to do, that there's actually two things that are happening.
that are equal, that have legitimacy on both fronts.
That's right.
That's right.
Have real legitimacy.
And actually, I'll go further and say that not only is this true for the African American perspective, but for the non-African Americans' perspective, looking at the African Americans playing,
exactly.
they actually have two things too. They're looking at the same thing, going, "You don't have to stay that way. You don't have to stay in that situation." And there's an element of that that's absolutely right.
It's totally true.
And yet, as the African American who's oppressed, looking on, saying, "I don't know how to get out of this," they're also right, and that person has to acknowledge that too, lest they victimize the victims.
Here's what
Or
happens.
that they become, because a part of the important part of this book is that if they're victims, guess what, y'all? Everybody else is too, because if they can do this to them, they are doing it to you.
That's right.
Even if you don't see it, feel it, recognize it.
exactly
If this is happening to them, it is happening to you. It's just a refinement that you haven't recognized. So that there has to be, and this is another critical part of the book, maybe the most critical, is that the answer has to transcend all of that.
Yes.
We can't find it in political means because it's a part of the oppressive system. It's not going to be through legislation. It's not going to be through programs. We've got those for days. We got programs.
And we're going to keep getting some more too.
And there's just going to be
is.
more. And the problem is they're not transcendent.
Right. Well, they can't transcend. So brother, what happens is there has to be an acknowledgement of the system that has created this circumstance.
That's right.
Whatever it may be. If we don't acknowledge it, what happens is, again, we start to attack other people. So I'm in the black community now, for example, staying with the black community. I tell the black community, there is no system of racism. And then I start pulling out statistics. Well, the statistics show that police brutality is nothing. It's not even a problem. Black on black crime is more a problem than police brutality by far. The stats show this. And furthermore, father absenteeism is the problem. There is no system. Stop making these excuses. You're not a victim. You live in America. Nobody did anything to you. You've never been a slave. And what happens is the people that do that don't realize, first of all, they have a point. They can't be entirely discredited.
No.
But what they don't have is an answer. How did you start thinking that way? Why did this happen? So they have a point, but they don't realize the very system that they say doesn't exist has systematically caused their minds and hearts to brutalize the people that they're trying to help. Brutalize them in what way? How you gonna tell this man the police didn't do that to him?
That's right.
You wasn't at his house. You haven't been in his life. You haven't been in his pocket. How are you going to tell him that where he lives, it is not like that? It's we at least have to acknowledge, yeah, that's, okay, this is what's happening. This is obviously happening to you, and I have to provide you with some answers, okay? How are you going to tell the person that they've never been a slave and no effects of that have ever happened to you? When they're the very direct descendants of slaves. It's like telling someone, I know that's your mama. I know that's your mama. But you cannot say that you look like your family. You can't say that some problem that your mama had is your problem. You can't say that your voice sounds like other family members. You got to move on. You've never even been, you weren't even alive when they were there. You have to move on. And the Bible's a beautiful thing. Most people that say these types of things claim to be Christians, most of them. The Bible says Abraham paid tithes to Melchizedek. No, Levi.
Yeah, Levi.
It said Levi. Okay.
Paid tithes.
It said Levi paid tithes to Melchizedek in Abraham before he was born. How? How did Levi pay tithes? He had nothing to do with Abraham. He never even knew. He never even knew.
So we're talking 3 generations.
Brother,
now.
you're talking about 3 generations and generations of people that lived longer than us. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So what I'm saying is, he's saying because Levi was in the loins of his father Abraham when Abraham did this. So you see the connection between not only family, but it's a discounting of the connection of the whole human race. How am I going to justly, intelligently say that what has taken place on the same earth under the same sun that we're now in has no effect on you whatsoever, and you need to move on from it, when I don't even have an answer as to why this happened and what's going on? And I end up brutalizing, even though I have a point. I do have a point. I have a point that we can't use these things as excuses. All that's true. But I end up brutalizing the people that I'm trying to help, and then the answer I give them is, in this scenario, and there's many, I tell you what, stop voting Democrat. That'll solve all your problems. You stop voting Democrat, that'll resolve your whole mentality, and you can come up to another plane. And what the system does, the system offers a solution by badgering other members that are influenced by the system and calling them to another segment of the same system to continue to perpetuate the problem that has never been resolved. Somebody tell me that made sense.
It makes sense, and I'm going to flip it and say the other side is true as well.
That's what we need to do. Flip it over there.
That if we look at those who have navigated oppression and made it through and found that in both things being true, they found that transcendent resolution at an individual level, that we have that too, having had it in their loins.
Yes.
It's not just, it goes both directions.
It does.
You know what I'm saying? So there should be enough, there is enough, not should be, there is enough. We actually are here having this discussion because we're saying that if you'll be in our loins, if you'll get in our hearts, right here, we'll carry you through this because we have found the resolution that is necessary for getting through this racist oppression that's in the world. Are you saying you've never been victimized? No, I'm not saying that. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Brother Binion.
Please.
I was raised both parents in the home. I was raised basically in kind of suburbia America, Chicago area. We didn't, I wasn't raised in the hood. I have a college degree. That's my black experience, okay? But I have been pulled over multiple times for being black.
Of course.
That's it. No other crime, no problem for being black.
And the people will tell you, you have not.
And no, that's true. I know I've been pulled over for being black.
I know you have.
And I've had questions asked that only being black you get. You don't get pulled over in the light of day, driving the regular speed limit, and asking if you got weapons. Okay, that don't happen.
Anything I need to know about here?
That don't happen.
Right.
You don't get patted and sit down and talk for driving the speed limit in broad daylight.
Do you mind
on the highway, not in the wrong side of town, on the interstate? Okay, and I want to tell you that's not nice.
No,
that doesn't feel good. There's a sense of trauma that you get off and you think,
come on,
you know. And now I've got to figure out how to live with that. I could decide that is going to now define my life.
Yes, the point of the chapter.
Or I can decide that it's not going to define, but I cannot deny it happened either. And what I'm saying is that is one tiny example of, in my heart, if you'll come with me, we have found a transcendent resolution that allows both to be true and neither to be true.
Yes, it is true. Well, and brother, that's exactly correct. Because I can't discredit your thinking, but your thinking does need to be filtered through the understanding that comes from here.
So your thinking cannot guide. Your thinking alone does not guide you out of this situation.
No, it will guide me to the Republican Party,
Right.
perhaps.
You need a filter. You need an added filter.
Yes.
That can walk you out. A mechanism.
I like that. I like that. Because it's a system. You need a
right.
system.
You need a system.
A mechanism to walk you out. I like that.
Of this, or
Yes.
like when it's like when a pilot is flying through clouds, he can't look at his surroundings.
That's right.
He can't do that.
That's right.
Then I understand just a little bit because I know people that fly. They say when you're a pilot, you get disoriented. You fly into clouds, and you can't tell if you're going right, left. They said there are pilots that actually would fly in circles in the middle of clouds because they can't tell which way is which. So they rely on their instrument panel. Mm-hmm. And what we haven't had, what society hasn't had, is an instrument panel.
That's very good.
To look at and to say,
That is good.
now look
That's
at this
very
now. Mm-hmm. No, don't do that.
Yeah,
don't do
don't
that.
look at your
You're
surroundings.
flying in circles. Don't do that. Look at this. But my feelings, I know your
Yes.
feelings. I get it. Look at this.
Yes.
And look at this. Stay in the middle of, keep both of these things.
Yes.
Right here. But there's the tendency in humanity is to say, look, no, I ain't keeping, no, they did us wrong. And
Right,
since they did
right.
us wrong, and you're in a cloud, and all you're doing is flying in circles and flying in circles.
Right, and that's what's been happening.
And I would
That's
say African Americans as a whole. Now,
As a
community have been, generally speaking, everybody.
Regressively progressive.
Flying in a circle. Come on, y'all. They did it. Come on, everybody. Get on the bandwagon. Everybody take a stand. Join the caravan of love. Stand up.
Yes.
White folks, you can come too if
Right.
you agree that we've been dogged out.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to dog you out so that you know, as you get on here with me, I'm going to browbeat you so you right, bro. And then,
and that's what happens.
Instead of
That's
saying,
what happens.
okay, this has got to be set up for me to get out of this. Mm-hmm. I got this, yeah. And I got this, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I got an instrument panel.
I got an instrument
and
panel.
I got somebody on the ground.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now what I got to do?
That's good too, right there.
Stay here. Okay, very good. Watch this. Keep steady. Now come on. We're going to bring you out. We got to bring a people out of the clouds.
Brother, you do. You got to bring them out. Okay, so you have the instrument panel, but you also have the person on the ground where you should be. Mm-hmm. You have someone speaking from, Lord have mercy, speaking from the
foundation.
destination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking to you in the clouds.
That's very
I'm talking to you from the destination.
I'm where you need to be.
When this book, we're speaking to you from, you just saying that because you wrote it. Yeah. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I wrote the book. We're speaking to you from the destination. And I can tell you how to get here. And what happens is, so I'm badgering these people. And we can close it up here shortly, but I'm badgering these people and saying you never been a slave, brother. Don't tell black folks they never been slaves. Mm-hmm. How we got here is from slavery. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Now it's true. We've never had to pick cotton like they did back then, but don't tell us we're not.
And that's done.
Don't tell us.
But that's done in an effort to get people to be balanced.
Say that again.
That's done.
What's done?
Those kind of statements.
statements.
You've never been a slave.
Right.
Because it works the other way with this white guilt that is in the world where people are walking, they want to, I want to apologize on behalf of my ancestors for what they did to your ancestors, which
doesn't help.
It doesn't fix anything.
Okay.
And it actually adds to this very topic that we're talking about.
And I understand what you're saying. So it is correct that you've never been a slave like that. But it depends
But
on
don't say-
it depends on the spirit of how you're saying it.
That's the point.
I'm saying that you've never been a slave like that. I agree with that statement.
But
I don't agree. I don't agree
That's
with
right.
the manner in which you said it.
Well, actually, there is a truth in it too.
Okay.
Don't say that I haven't been oppressed at a level that we would call slavery.
Right? Which is the
Modern
point,
day.
Which is the point they're talking about. So none of us have never been slaves. Now I'll agree with you there. I'll agree with you for all black people, and I'll say thank the Lord.
Yes, sir.
But if you're saying it in the way that we're talking about, in an oppressive way, and therefore just get over it.
Just get over it.
I'm discounting every experience you had. I'm discounting everything that you think has happened to you. I'm telling you there's no system. And there's something innately in the black community
That tells them.
black people know there's a system.
Yes.
You got to forfeit blackness to not say.
That's right. That's
you got to forfeit a portion of the black experience to say, there's no system. What are you talking about? The reason we got here because there is one.
And that's why there's such a lack of leadership among the black community.
Yes.
It's because there's not those voices bringing those parties together saying, wait.
Yes, they can't.
Don't lose your black credibility
intelligence.
Right.
Lose
or your
intelligence.
intellect
Right.
by saying it doesn't exist, it
Yes.
doesn't exist. We just have a problem with absenteeism. Wait a minute.
Yes.
3 strikes rule made absenteeism possible.
Right, exactly.
Like
and
something
that
happened
came from
to the
a
community.
system.
That's
Yes.
right.
And so what happened, brother, the people are doing all that, and then the people that are hearing this, they maybe can't articulate what we're trying to articulate, and I'm not minimizing everybody, I'm just saying everybody can't maybe, and even we can fall in this category depending on what we're talking about, can't articulate what we're attempting to say. So they say, look, now I start calling you an Uncle Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person looking on says, and they think they got one up on them. I got more money than you, and they think they got one up. They say, well, actually, Uncle Tom was a good old boy. He was a good character, and you don't even know what's going on. And then I'll start badgering you because you don't even know who Uncle Tom was. And we come to no resolution. We have black on black crime.
Which is exactly
Which is
what the system of oppression wants us to do.
exactly.
And leave people on the outside going, see,
Yes.
And then now
Yes.
they can actually have a narrative about blacks.
Yes. Black
they're
folks
confused.
never get along.
They're confused. They
don't even follow their own intellectuals. And then the white people jump on the other people's side. See, there's a black person and they believe this, and why don't you all follow them? One more thing I want to say. At least one more. In terms of white supremacy, this happens to white people too.
all day.
Okay, so I start saying white supremacy. The same thing. White folks, these black people have so many problems. White folks, y'all got the same exact
Identical.
problems from the same exact system. So you have a group of white people talking about, you hear white supremacy, say white supremacy does not exist. That is a social construct, and they're offended. And what they're saying is, I'm mad at the idea.
Yes.
They're not even, it doesn't exist, it's a social construct, and they're absolutely right. It is a social construct, and then the term, in the sense of a reality from God, it doesn't exist. It's a fabricated false imagery, but it is in existence at the same time. Somebody say, I don't understand. I know, and that's why we keep going in circles in the cloud. So one white person wants to apologize. Another white person says white supremacy doesn't exist. Another white person says I've always loved black people. Another white person says, well, I don't know why all these black folks don't get fixed and the problems don't get fixed. Then some white people among themselves say, we're the ones that's oppressed. The white heterosexual Christian male, we're the ones. And you have the same badgering, abusive scenarios in the white community that are in the black community. And the only way to get the resolution.
And so everybody is left without being
reconciled.
And
everybody. The point of the book is we've been hustled.
Everybody's getting hustled.
Everybody.
We're talking
every community.
We're African Americans and we want to reach our own people. We want to reach all people, but I mean specifically, right? We're
of course
naturally want to reach our own people. We're like the Apostle Paul, like these are our kinsmen, right?
Yes.
And yet the bigger message of the book is, hey, all y'all been hustled. Everybody's in this thing, and we're trying to tell everybody. If the black community can understand this, then anybody can understand this.
Absolutely.
And that's not a statement of demeaning. I'm just saying, if we can get it to you, then you need it too, because everybody's affected by this system. This system would take up another podcast. We ought to do the system. Do something on that.
Well, we've done beastly systems.
And you do that 12, 13 times.
Yeah, we've done
The system. We have to make it nice. Put something on it to make it.
So
Like it's
victim or
different.
victim mentality. We can't escape the victim mentality.
That's right.
And we've been victimized by a system. So anyway, the book. It's in the book.
Hustlin Backwards, Regressive Progression. This is the story of freedom recaptured, written by Stephen P. Hargrave. You can get the copy of this book. They're $28 currently at realblackexcellence.com, and there's an audio download, also $28, that you can get by going to the website. You can find it on the Google Play Store and on the Apple App Store. Thank you so much for listening. May the Lord bless you.